if you want to build a great company, you got companies that fail, companies that do okay, and great companies. If you want to build a great company, you have to have operational excellence. You don't actually have to have innovation to build a great company. If you have operational excellence, you can build a great company. Innovation is a great seedling to building the best companies, but innovation will fail or succeed purely on the performance of the execution. So you can get the greatest idea in the world, the greatest business concept, the greatest thing all. If they cannot execute, nothing will ever happen of it.
Look, I'm excited to talk to you. You know, you've got a vast wealth of knowledge in a variety of different things. Obviously, exiting companies, buying, selling companies, all this kind of stuff. You know, as we head into 2025, and we're heading in now to the election cycle that we've got coming up in 2024, I'm curious to know what your perspective is on kind of how you see the economic environment shaping up, especially as it relates to deals, M&A, and that kind of thing.
It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot in there. You're going to get a very different. I don't want to kind of throw out a political perspective of who people should vote for, but obviously it's very, very different outcomes potentially from the two different candidates. I think I would focus more on kind of a little bit more of the detail in the weeds around, you know, what's happening with M&A and the FTC's position, with Nina Khan on running the FTC at this point. And I do have maybe some of the strategies that they're taking as it relates to M&A and as they think about the M&A market. I think there's some good things, but there's also a lot of things that are definitely, you know, will hold back innovation, will hold back, you know, business development.
I'd like getting perspectives of people in the industry that have done great things. And this is your thing. It's your job to know these things, right? And a lot of us, so who are kind of going through this are, you know, novice at best in many cases, but yet we're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to acquire a company? Are we going to sell a company? What does that look like? I chose to exit last year due to the environment itself, specifically just because of that. I am curious to know what some of the tailwinds and headwinds you see.
So I've been obviously in the heart of innovation for 25 years of my career, and innovation has just, I grew up as an engineer. I came into the market as an engineer, and I kind of ended up building technical businesses, specifically with an idea of like, how can I contribute to society with the advancement of technology? That's how I see it. You know, some people might see it differently, but I definitely see it as a contribution to society, contribution to quality of life. Like, how do we advance technology? And as the US, how do we stay ahead of the curve? Because I think the key thing that's driven the US economy for the last 50 years has been technological advancement and innovation. And this being a hotbed and an environment where innovation is encouraged, new businesses are encouraged. And so now I sit in the venture space, and I'm investing in a lot of these innovative companies. And what I really have come to learn and understand in my career is the cycle of money and the cycle of innovation. How does it all work? So there's, you know, the general concept is, you know, people, you know, that have made capital in their life want to invest that capital back into the next generation. They want to make money. Everyone has an economic outcome they're looking for. But ultimately, I do think that innovation into venture businesses is kind of the most forward-looking innovation in forward-looking investment strategies that people might have. But again, it's still an economic decision that people make. So as investors invest in funds like our fund, what they're really looking for is, hey, what is the opportunity that we're going to generate here? We'll invest in some great businesses. Some will grow, some will be successful, some will fail. But at the end of the day, how do I get my returns from this investment? And those returns stem from two main categories. One is companies that are able to go public, which is rare. And secondly is companies that get acquired, which is the far more common exit strategy. Ironically, the biggest acquirers in the category are the big players, the Googles, the Microsofts of the world. They're going to be the biggest acquirers. Having said that, the general idea is, you know, for me as an investor to continue cycling my money back into these venture firms, I need to be able to see the end of that cycle. I need to see that come out, and then I'll reinvest it into the next set of innovation. And so if, you know, 2 years ago, I think there was north of 100 IPOs, 140 or something. And then in the last 2 years, there's been probably sub 10 each year, obviously because the market has come down. So everybody's leaned much more into, well, if we don't have an opportunity to go public right now, then what's the opportunity to be acquired? And the opportunity historically to be acquired has been significantly higher. The likelihood of being acquired is significantly higher than the likelihood of going public. But again, what it does is it, you know, drives that loop of capital which drives the loop of innovation. And by the way, it's not just the capital, it's the innovators themselves. When they sell their businesses, they want to go back out and innovate again. And there's very few innovators, true innovators in this world. So you want to release them back into the wild and give them the opportunity to innovate. And so, the markets are going to naturally strangle or drive POs, public offerings. Like that's going to happen kind of organically. But M&A, which should possibly happen organically, if you suddenly put a real restraint on it, if the FTC decides, hey, acquisition in general is a bad thing, and we're going to put a whole bunch of barriers and blockers, suddenly the amount of considerations an acquirer has to go through before they actually make an offer to buy a company is way, way more stringent, way, way more restricted. And as a result, I end up in a situation where the volume of acquisitions goes down significantly and the likelihood of a company being acquired goes down. What that does is that stops the returns coming back to the investors. It stops the release of the innovators that want to go back to the market and re-innovate again. And ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, it slows down the whole process of building a big, great business, especially from a technology standpoint. I feel as though, although there are, legitimate reasons for some intervention, like true competitive or kind of anti-competitive issues that you have to consider, I actually agree that those exist. For the most part, that is not the case. For the most part, companies are not able to be acquired for reasons that don't relate to an anti-competitive environment or things like that. And I think that that's actually, does a misjustice to the ability for this market, for the US market, to continue to be the leader in innovation, continue to cycle money back into that innovation cycle. So that's kind of, on a surface, what worries me. There are a whole bunch of nuances in there that we can dive into deeper, but that's kind of the general theme of my concerns around kind of M&A thinking right now in the market.
Yeah, well, another kind of a loose pivot off of that is, I know a lot of times compliance issues specifically are generated by, regulations, in some cases administrations. Administrations believe different things and how the economy should work, not work, et cetera. And I see a lot of deals specifically fall apart at the end because of compliance issues. Compliance, 5 years ago was X, Y, Z. You're getting towards the end of the deal. You're not paying attention to the compliance. And because you're not doing that, you get to the end of the deal and like, hey, you're out of compliance on these three major factors. And then a deal gets, a haircut or doesn't close at all. So what types of things maybe do you see in relationship to compliance related items that businesses need to be kind of forward thinking of going into the next several years?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, the best situation is always going to be a compromise. It's always going to be a balance.
Yeah.
I think over-regulation is bad, but under-regulation is also bad. The problem is bad actors are always going to try and find the loopholes and try and figure out ways to kind of do bad things, taking advantage of whatever, avenues or open doors there are. So that's inevitably going to happen. And the problem is sometimes I feel maybe we over-regulate in order to protect ourselves from that. But in doing so, we're kind of throwing it in the kitchen sink, right? Everything suddenly gets kind of tied up with that. So I'm definitely not a complete anti-regulation person. I think regulation is really important. I think one actually great example of that is regulation in crypto. Okay. The lack of regulation in crypto actually is a problem. And the fear, the SEC's position around crypto, where they basically will sue anyone for anything and never make the rules, so you don't actually understand what rules you have to abide by. Yeah. It's just forcing everybody offshore. And now suddenly more crypto innovation is really happening offshore. Yeah. US is losing out in a big way by not being part of the crypto revolution. And so if you could actually put good quality regulation behind crypto that people can follow because they actually understand the rules they have to work by, and now can make a plan accordingly, then you're going to bring crypto back into the US market. And there's massive innovation in crypto that you can play with. So that's a great example of under-regulation that is problematic.
Yeah.
But then there's so many examples of over-regulation that's also problematic. So I think it's a very interesting balance, and it's a very interesting navigation. I do think whenever you're looking at M&A, if you are in a regulatory environment, if you're being acquired in a regulatory environment, you're always going to have kind of loopholes. Mm-hmm. You have to navigate those. You have to do a good job of that. If you don't, then you can only really blame yourself because regulation in most cases is clear. Yeah. My concern is in situations where there is no rule. It's just the FTC or whoever it is steps in and says, "Oh, this doesn't sound right. I'm going to break up Google."
Yeah.
One other thing to think about is the world going forward is going to be so heavily driven by AI and AI innovation. And our biggest ability to compete on the global scale, because AI costs so much money, is only to do it through the major kind of tech companies, Facebook, Google, Amazon. These are the only guys that really, really compete at that level in terms of their investment into AI globally. Mm-hmm. And so again, if your fight is to break up the big companies, you're breaking up some of the power horses we have to actually compete on the global scale. And sometimes I feel as though some of the thinking is a little short-sighted because you're not thinking about what's the longer term ramification of kind of driving these kinds of regulatory actions that don't have, that are more feeling than an actual documented rule.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I also think to the short-sightedness piece, the short-sightedness tends to follow, at least from my perspective, election cycles. It's following an avenue of what do the people want to hear, need to hear kind of concept, rather than what's really right for the economies globally, US wise, what's really kind of at play. And with the AI thing specifically, it's growing so fast that it seems like all the new ideas that are being now integrated into more of the larger tech companies seems to come through acquisition. So, I think one of the original AI platforms was purchased by Google, and then they went on to develop it further, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was one of the other platforms.
Yeah, that's a great example of how M&A really feeds innovation, right? Like you want Google to buy that platform because outside of Google, the ability for that platform to compete is very limited. And that's similar. Most really, disruptive technologies find a home in these big platforms because that's where they get the money and that's where they get the distribution to really be impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. As I'm thinking through things, I'm kind of like positioning my brain a little bit more towards I actually got a message on one of our social platforms yesterday, and it was a pretty easy question. It was, what do I do if I'm looking for venture capital? It was a pretty interesting question. That was the extent. No business concept, no deck, no nothing.
The question was a very complicated answer.
Exactly, right. So it's like, well, there's lots of ways you can look at this. But to pivot off of that, given the fact that you're in the venture world now, what are you looking for when you're considering putting venture capital into an entrepreneur, business endeavor, et cetera?
In a moment, I'd love to go into like what I'm most proud of from an investment standpoint, because that speaks to kind of like what drives me personally. But from a business perspective, we invest at a very certain stage. We invest in this late seed Series A stage. Anybody in the industry will kind of understand what that is. It's the stage at which the company has kind of demonstrated they've got a real product and a real business, but they haven't really, really figured out the true growth and scale mechanics yet.
Yeah.
They know the market's there. They haven't quite figured it out. And so we're looking for something that fits in that realm. We want to invest, $5 to $15 million, like a decent check, but not these $100 or $500 or $1 billion rounds that are much later stage. And so we're really trying to find those early innovations that are really going to that are moving with the tide of market and are going to drive the market. One of the biggest things, honestly, is going to be the people. Like beyond anything, we really want to believe, we're really dedicated to our whole ethos as a firm is dedicated to founders and founder success. And so we want to find the right founders. We're basically getting into a 10-year marriage with an innovator, an entrepreneur. So when you're getting into that marriage, you want to make sure you're getting married to someone you actually enjoy working with, right? You don't want to, every phone call to be painful. That's
do your due diligence for sure.
Yeah. Make sure that they're good people. Make sure that they excite you, they innovate, they think beyond your realms of being able to think. And then everything that you match around that is kind of the understanding of how that all fits together. So, is the category they're investing in moving with the tides of technology, moving with the tides of the market? Are they well suited to be the driver be a leader in that category? Is their core business model economically viable at scale? Does it make sense? Will it grow? And then how does the market react? So, one of the key triggers for us, the thing that kind of gets companies over the hump for us is, have they gone to market? Do they have customers? What do their customers think of them? What's the product market fit? Do we believe that this is an early signal that there is a mass need and demand for this offering? And those are kind of the characteristics we look for when we try to identify someone we want to invest in.
No, I love that. And I do want to hear the segment on the passion as well. I do, before we hit that, I want to come at it from a different angle. One of the things that I've seen just in entrepreneurship. So I don't know how much you know about me, Karl, but one of the things that I did with my first company is I started it literally from a trash pile of a construction site and built it to close to 9 figures before we exited. So I learned a lot about a lot of different things, mainly by failures, by heartache, hitting my head against the wall many times. I had a really hard time moving from founder entrepreneur into CEO. It probably took me 3 years to become a qualified CEO. So when you're looking at, and I think this would fit into the round that you just made, that you just mentioned, where it's kind of a little bit late stage, the A's and the C's. That when it comes to that, it seems like that's also the biggest jump when the founder has to either become a CEO or step aside for a CEO. Do you guys have any kind of like goals or benchmarks that you guys use to kind of validate, is that founder really ready to be the CEO of a large organization?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of it is a feeling, and kind of getting to know. A lot of it is their ability to deliver vision. A lot of it is their ability to execute against a vision. But absolutely, we think about, we want to invest in founders that really can build and drive and run their own businesses. Our goal is not to invest in a founder just for the need to replace them. But having said that, I've been there myself too. So I've definitely founded companies where I've had to kind of fake it as CEO because I really know what I'm doing in very early days. And then over the years, I've developed the skill sets and the understanding of kind of the different stages of business. But I think one of the key traits we really look for is humility. A lot of young founders have a lot of hubris, and that gets in the way. Yeah. And I think what you said is really poignant. Like you have to learn. Sometimes you realize that you're not ready yet, but you could be ready. You just have to be open to the guidance, the mentorship, the education that it takes to get ready. And I think there's a lot of amazing founders that learned it on the job. Absolutely. I have some amazing ones in our portfolio. And that's fine. You're only going to learn it on the job if you're open to learning it. And some founders are luckily a little bit more of a rare breed. I don't see as many of them these days. Most founders tend to be more open these days. But some founders just come with a lot of hubris, and then it kind of, you question if it's trying to work with them, because you know that then they're not necessarily going to take the feedback or take the guidance or grow as needed with the company.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the show. Steven Scoggins here. I've got something that I think is absolutely going to blow your mind. Imagine taking your life and your business to the whole another level. I'm talking about an 8-figure level and beyond. You see, you've been working your butt off to build your business to where it is now. But what if you could work smarter, free up more time, make more money and impact along the way? How much would that be worth to you? You see, I can prove that basic steps, basic mindset shifts, and subtle changes can make the biggest difference. I want to introduce you to the 8-figure mindset makeover. It's absolutely free and it's here for you. It's a powerful summary of my top strategies that help propel me from the streets, if you will, to upwards of 9 figures and quote unquote success, as we like to chase it. This is more than just tips though. It's a complete mindset overhaul with simple hacks that you can apply today to begin working on your unprecedented heights in your own business. I would like the honor to share these types of things with you that turn my dreams into reality so you can experience the same type of joy and freedom that I now get to live out in my own day. In other words, it's time for you to build your own unstoppable enterprise. And if you're really ready to take it to the next level and elevate your life and your business, this is an absolute game changer for you. So if you want to take advantage of this free resource, simply go to the show notes and click the link, or you can go to stevenscoggins.com/8-figure. That's stevenscoggins.com/8-figure. Until then, much love. God bless. Let's get back to the show. Take care.
Yeah, it seems interesting to me that, if I was to take venture capital from any organization, to your point earlier, it is the marriage, right? So I would be stepping in from a place of, okay, you're here to help me scale this company for both of our benefits, right? So, if you see something that's not right that I could be doing better, I would prefer, I think my approach, and I'm just throwing out an approach because obviously I haven't bought a lot of businesses and stuff like that, but my approach would be to try to grow the founders as far as they can get grown. And once they reach a bit of a threshold, bring in a co-CEO that has experience or something like that, that can then, with the sole purpose of training that person up. And then if that for some reason doesn't work out, then you ask them to step aside and you kind of move the temp CEO over to the seat, largely to make sure the organization is growing at a scalable rate that's meaningful to the investors and the founder. What do you think about a strategy like that, out of curiosity? I'm throwing one out.
I think a parallel strategy to that is more the way that we would take. The reason I worry about that strategy a little bit, because when you bring someone in that you already have kind of that CEO mindset to, first of all, you got to recruit someone that expects to be a CEO. Because otherwise you're not really filling, when you do the job description for that, you kind of have to define it in a way that you actually look at someone who's CEO. So it means you have someone in the job who's thinking, I'm going to be CEO, I'm going to replace this person, and they can create some strange dynamics. What we really like to do is we want to work with a founder to build the best executive team possible. Ideally, if you have the absolute best executive team possible, first of all, they'll prop up that founder. They'll fill in the gaps.
Okay.
But more importantly, if the founder does at some point decide, hey, I'm not right for this, or I built it as far as I can, and I want to take a chairman role, or I want to take a bit more of a back seat, you have a handful of executives already in their seats that could potentially each step up. But they're not coming in with this clear vision that they should be CEO.
Yeah.
And so I think the dynamic of that founder team and the quality, that executive team that surrounds the founder, and the quality of that executive team that founds the surrounder is key to everything, to success and everything, and also key to succession planning. But I think you have to go into an investment with a mindset that I'm investing in a founder that has the potential to run a multi-billion-dollar company. If I don't believe that founder has that capability out the gate, then I'm not sure that it's too much heartache and hard work to transition. And then it's such a gamble, because you get the best CEO in the world, but if ultimately they're not the right fit for the company this founder built, then it's just not going to work. And so you're taking a whole additional level of risk by investing in something where you don't think the incumbent leader is there already in the seat. We're not always right, so you might be wrong. So the idea of putting a great team around them gives you the avenues for succession planning. But I wouldn't be very hesitant if my first thought is, oh, this is a great company, but we might have to replace the CEO. And so therefore, let's put someone in a seat that is ready to do that. I think that's a risky approach when you're putting money to work.
Yeah. And there's a side reason why I wanted to ask the question, because there's a lot of founders and entrepreneurs that watch the show. And one of the things we talk about on the show all the time is this essence of humble confidence, right? Knowing you have to be maintain a spirit of being teachable and humble, period, constantly. And to your point, I'd say about 25% of the entrepreneurs that we bump into through our programs and everything that we do haven't learned the humility trait yet. And I learned the humility trait in different ways by getting my head cracked open with different problems. And part of the goal is to prevent them from having to do that and go ahead and set the stage. Is like, okay, if you're in a kind of industry that maybe venture capital makes good sense for, you're an innovator, you're in the AI space, the tech software space, or anything like that. This is coming from someone, this is what they're looking for. This is what they need from you as a founder, CEO, the ability to, grow yourself, the hunger to do so. Because growing yourself is a daily decision. It's not something you do. It's once and done, I am curious. I want to go back to your earlier comment. What is driving your passion? What is driving your passion for M13? What is driving your passion for the venture capital side within that? What is driving you?
In terms of what drives, so I've obviously, it was 20 years actually operating at 3 companies in that career, two of which I was CEO and I exited through acquisition, and then the last one that went public, and I was COO of that company, DigitalOcean. I put in the hours, put in the hard work.
Yeah.
And honestly, through my time, I'd made certain angel investments, sat on other boards, advised other founders, and looking back at my history, I had so much excitement and pleasure, but stress and pressure around the companies that I built. But all my interactions and relationships when I was dealing with other founders and other companies was always very, very enjoyable. Even if the companies didn't survive, I just really enjoyed the process of helping them and working with them. And so when I was getting to the tail end of my time at DigitalOcean, I was obviously being heavily recruited to go into another operating role, into an investing role. And my first fork in the role was to say, do I want to do this again? I don't want to go through another 5, 6, 7 years of just like hard work.
I ask myself the same question with these new businesses I'm starting.
I'm now a dad. I've got young babies. Like, is this really the right thing to do? Or do I want to go, really explore this passion of working with a portfolio of founders, fighting really young, innovative, exciting? Well, and I paid my dues. So I think I earned it right.
That's right.
And so, my first decision was, I think I could get really passionate about helping other people realize some of the success and opportunities that I got in my life. And it's really played out that way. I have like incredibly passionate, exciting founders that I really love working with. Yeah. And I get this ability to really see the broad horizon of the market and understand where people are playing and help kind of from a different position, help founders navigate like direction and what they're thinking and where they're going with their strategy. It's important because when I was in the seat, you get so blinkered. You mean that, right? You get so blinkered. Like, this is my world. And then not only until you get out of the seat, do you look up and you go, wow, the rest of the world has evolved so much. I didn't even necessarily notice that. And so I really enjoy being in that kind of like wide-eyed view and working with really, I'm inspired every day by the conversations I have with the founders in the portfolio, with the things that they're building. I love it. So I have a real ambition to just kind of continue to seed the success of all these other founders out there. And that really, really drives me. And I think we've done something very unique at M13. I'm always an entrepreneur. So I've always been thinking like, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it disruptively. Yeah. And I think what we did here at M13 was we really drove this concept of partnership with founders, really proactive approach, which not all venture capitalists take, where we can really get involved, really work on strategy, really help drive, fill in the gaps in the organization, help drive these businesses forward. And so seeing that come to life and seeing the relationship and the partnership we have with our portfolio companies is just really exciting to me. But happy, like in terms of specific investments, I'm happy. There's a certain area which I'm happy to share that kind of really makes me proud of kind of what we do, which I'm happy to elaborate on it. So I think, as I said at the beginning, I think I've always felt that technology really contributes to the quality of life of man. But there's also always going to be the position, the mindset that people have that, venture capitalists and vultures. And it's going to take my job next week and this, that, and the other. So there's a couple of companies, I think, that really, really, I think are for the betterment of humanity, like real impact investing. Yeah. It's hard to find impact investments that really make sense economically. Sure. But I think we've identified a couple that really speak to the betterment of humanity. So one is in a company called Prepared that's in the 911 space, and it's like totally disrupting the way that 911 happens. And it comes off of the back of like an immense amount of just bad first responder situations that have been driven by lack of knowledge and lack of understanding. And so this company is bringing AI and multimedia into the 911 category to allow for much better responses and much better outcomes as it relates to first responders. So not just police, fire department, ambulance, everything. It has saved countless lives. It has improved countless situations. And the case studies that come out of this company every day are just unbelievable. The founder himself, who's very, very young, experienced a school shooting. And that was the inspiration for on communication incidents. And so when you see the origins and the passion behind it, and you understand how it's actually designed to improve society, yet it's an incredibly economically viable investment, that type of thing is incredibly exciting to me. There's another one we invested in, which is kind of about proactive healthcare, longevity. It's a longevity platform called Life Force. And it's all about how do we actually make people healthier? Yeah. Which in turn is the only way to really solve the healthcare cost care crisis. Yeah. And so it's like delivering a kind of health management kind of toolkit that makes you healthier at older ages, makes you age better, like helps you just live and be, healthy and muscle and have a better life. And it's all grounded by real science and real kind of longevity medicine. It's like a real virtual category. Again, something I'm really excited about because I'm like, hey, I use it and it makes me feel my old age. And I can see how if people just proactively thought about their health, how much of a difference that makes just to society in general. Another one where we just invested in called Replenish, which is a system to really manage and help kind of recycling of plastics and cardboard and other products. And it takes a really fragmented, messy category and really organizes it and to become an incredible tool to actually create real value. You see, California suing, the oil companies for, what they consider the lies are recycling the plastics. But the reality is it's not that recycling is bad, it's that the processes of how it's done aren't effective. But if now suddenly you put technology behind it and you say, hey, you can track every ounce of plastic that goes through the system, you suddenly create an environment where you can actually really truly measure the impact of recycling and really make it work for society. So those types of investments are super passionate for me because they actually make better for humanity. It's a whole bunch of other investments that just help businesses be better and this and that. But when it comes down to the actual improvement of humanity, those are the things that really, really kind of I get passionate about.
Man, I'm there with you. It's funny to me. Well, not funny. I think I find it interesting where innovation actually normally derives from. And I've always said there's three great purposes in life. The first purpose is serving the person you used to be, which you're doing with some of these entrepreneurs. Serving the person you once lost or loved, which would be the shooting scenario that you kind of mentioned. And then kind of that same kind of concept is serving the person that, essentially needed the training that you needed, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So it's like in that same vein. And everything you just mentioned is like kind of smack dab in one of three of those on a consistent basis. And I find it so cool where innovation and ideas come from. It doesn't take much to have a really great idea and then align yourselves with really great, professionals to help you get the idea to the marketplace and actually do some real change in the world like you're just talking about. I want to pivot a little bit as it regards to innovation specifically, because it seems like innovation is here and then operational excellence kind of trailers it or follows it. How do you kind of look at innovation and operational excellence and getting them kind of succinctly unified to get the maximum output of any business?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. It really kind of framing in my head that concept and it really makes sense. Like, I think operational excellence, if you want to build a great company, so you got companies that fail, companies that do okay, and great companies.
Yeah.
If you want to build a great company, you have to have operational excellence. You don't actually have to have innovation to build a great company. And it's a long road, but if you have operational excellence, you can build a great company. With innovation is a great seedling to building the best companies, but innovation will fail or succeed purely on the performance of the execution. So you can get the greatest idea in the world, the greatest business concept, the greatest thing all. If they cannot execute, nothing will ever happen. If their execution is average at best, they'll be an average company. If their execution is excellent, then they have the greatest chance of being excellent. If you have a great execution but no innovation, again, you could fail because it can be product market fit, but a great executor is going to navigate that and figure out how do I iterate, how do I improve, how do I get enough product market fit to at least have a business. So your likelihood of failure is probably lower. Your likelihood of greatness is probably lower as well, but you end up in this like interesting middle ground where you build a good company. Now, obviously, we're investing in great companies. We don't want to invest in good companies. Like, they're good, but they don't really make a big difference in the world. So we want to find the great companies. So it really is that blend. You have to find the innovation, but within the pool of great executors. So table stakes is you have to be an executor. And then we'll make our decision based upon quality of the innovation we think that you're bringing to the world. And so it's kind of that interesting balance between those two categories.
Yeah. What also seems to me too, that the glue between, or the difference or glue, if you will, between a great company and an average or a good company at best tends to center around the company culture that ultimately drives the execution. What are your thoughts on kind of like what the ideal company culture looks like with a handful of pillars to give some of our entrepreneurs that are watching kind of some ideas on how to maybe look at their culture from a different perspective? Because, their culture is typically a resemblance of them more than anything else.
Yeah, I think company culture is, I learned this so much at DigitalOcean. Company culture is so key to deliver and get the best out of this team for a couple of reasons. One, because a team that is motivated is going to work on their own. You don't need to be, forced to work. They're going to go out of their way to work. And more importantly is that, the best employees want to be motivated. They want to be, it's something that they're passionate about, they believe in. And if it's a bad company culture, they have every option in the world to go find good culture elsewhere. So I think culture is a real driver of the best teams and also gets the most out of the best teams. So I think culture is definitely key to success for sure. Totally.
Well, and so I'll give you some examples of company cultures, things that we did internally with the company that I just exited last year. Were mainstays. First of all, I chose to treat the company a bit like a personal development company. So when we have our weekly or monthly meetings, a lot of times with either the C-suite professionals or the entire team together, we would typically spend a little time on helping them become better humans. Content around mindset, content around heart set, content around building better strategies. There's a good friend of mine, Lee Benson, that wrote a book called The Most Important Number, which is all about taking a department and getting the key metrics of each department to one specific number to focus on, which I thought was pretty powerful. Yeah. Then we did this thing called Peaks and Valleys. And we did this. Now, our company was probably 400 strong across 3 states total. And so not everybody got to participate in this. So like your nucleus of 100, call it 100 team members. But we found that giving them the ability to have team members express both their peaks for the week and their valleys for the week in a way that was authentic and vulnerable and transparent to them. Like they didn't have to overshare. It wasn't like, make sure you do this, right? Brought commonality. It also brought departments together because someone over here in this department have experienced somebody else's problem that's happening over here. And that brought a lot of collaborative efforts around lifestyle and life and just kind of being a better human. On top of that, I think one of the other core values that we had was collaboration in general. Like we wanted the teams to talk. We wanted the ideas. We wanted the comprehension. We wanted them to be able to feel safe enough to tell us where we weren't doing well as tell us where we could do better. Like, kind of like if you tell us a problem, give us some solutions, how would you do it different? And I found that many of the best ideas on creating a better company culture, as well as backfilling many of the roadblocks or the bottlenecks that happen in any process, came out of that same concept, if you will. Have you seen models like that kind of work where you're kind of bringing the heart set of the team in with the mindset of the team?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've implemented that a lot. I think there's different components of culture though. So I think that there's a lot of the soft parts of culture, which I think is what you're referring to, which is the ability to drive communication across the organization and showing vulnerabilities and things is all very helpful. We've done things in the past where we have this kind of gratitude section of our kind of all hands meeting where people can express gratitude to other parts of the organization. So people's contributions are highlighted. So a lot of that stuff's out. But I think there's a couple other components. First of all, you got to think about the types of people that are out there for you to hunt. One thing I would say, I don't think it's that controversial, but it might be considered that, is there's very few innovators, true innovators out in the world. Sure. Very few. Yeah. And even in a very large company, the reason why some of these companies, as they grow big, lose their ability to innovate is because they're hiring for core talent. But as the teams get bigger, the number of innovators that are in those teams, if they're not pulled out, recognized, and their innovations tend to be dampened. And so smaller companies have the better ability to innovate because they attract more innovators, and the innovators have more impact on how the rest of the team works. And so I think one thing you have to recognize as you're building an organization is, who are your innovators? Who are the people that are going to truly make the difference? You might have some incredible A+ level engineers, but a lot of them are just going to be there to execute. That's what they need to do. That's what they're good at. And we'll do it. And there's only going to be a handful of people at most that are going to sit there and go, no, we should do it differently. No, we should innovate here, or we should do something. So recognizing the makeup of your organization is very, very important. And then that goes hand in hand with the other side of it, which is having the organizational structure to recognize where people sit in the stack. What are the levels? Mm-hmm. People who are very, very experienced and capable kind of want to be recognized for that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and I've been in an environment where we've tried to build a flat engineering organization. Oh, all engineers are great, everybody together. And suddenly, the more experienced engineers are like, this doesn't make sense. And the junior engineers get big hubris because they're like, I'm alongside this, senior engineer. And engineers really want to understand, like, what's the pecking order? What's the structure here? Who can I learn from and who do I need to teach?
Yeah.
And so creating structure within that structure, recognizing where the innovators are, so they are actually highlighted as the innovators of the organization, allows you probably to get the most out of how that team operates and works. And then all the soft communication components kind of layer on top of that. And so I think you have to kind of combine these soft pieces that make people feel really good about communication, visibility, connection, with the structural components that actually give them mechanisms by which to operate and to work and deliver their best flow. Another key component is A+ players want to work with A+ players. So you put A+ players in a team and you hire a bunch of B's and C's in there. The first people to leave will be the A+ players, and you're left with a whole bunch of B's and C's.
Yeah.
And then
I've experienced that myself. I've experienced
pretty crass in terms of how I'm describing it, but that's kind of from a team building standpoint, that's what happens. And so really understanding the quality of a team and being very clinical about how you maintain an A+ level team.
Yeah.
It's so important structurally to support everything that you would be doing on the soft side. So I do think it's kind of, when you talk about operational excellence, it's a combination of both those pieces.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic feedback, because company culture again is the glue. Like it's I tell you, I take that back. It's either gunky oil or it's refined oil that allows the gears to kind of really spin kind of quicker.
Absolutely. It's either greasing the wheels or fogging the wheels.
That's right. Exactly. Just like that. In the 1 or 2 minutes we got left, I'm curious, is there something else on your heart that you think all entrepreneurs should be aware of that most of them aren't aware of or don't focus on?
I think it's all about the people at the end of the day. And there is something that maybe I have kind of front of mind about innovation and the innovation economy as a whole. And I think something that the rest of the economy can learn from it. We have a lot of issues and concerns nationally and even internationally, but very much within the US about the divide between the rich and the poor, like the left. How do you think about distribution of wealth in an organization like this? And I think that what innovative growth companies have done is they've affected this concept of the ESOP, which is the option pool player, shares the wealth. Everybody comes into a developing growth business, technology business usually, and everyone has a piece of the upside. Everyone has an opportunity to earn what they're working towards.
Sure. And
as a result, I would say, and again, this is not statistically founded in any reality, but I believe it works for me, but I believe that the most millionaires created in the last 30 years in this country are probably created out of option pools from tech companies. And I've seen it myself where I've had, middle management people calling me and saying, Carl, you made me a billionaire. And I have a baby now with my wife for so much. Right. I'm like, that's amazing. There's someone that was getting paid 100, 120 grand a year, and now they're legitimately a millionaire. And so understanding the people, you're going back to the entrepreneur question, the team you're putting together, the family you're putting together, and the ability to share in the benefit and have them feel like they own a part of that journey. And then ultimately distributing the wealth accordingly. Trust me, as the founder, you're going to do very, very well. But that willingness to distribute that wealth and distribute the value that everybody's built around you is incredible. And I think the biggest driver, and it's not really just a comment to entrepreneurs, comment to all young Gen Z workers out there that are going to kind of want to be part of the economic system. Like, find an environment where you can be part of the game, where you can be, and work your butt off. Not all Gen Zs don't have to work as hard as maybe some of the Gen Ys or Gen Xs, but work your butt off and be a part of that journey, and that'll pay incredible rewards. And just on the macro, if from an economic standpoint, we thought about government policies that promote the idea of wealth distribution within companies based upon company growth, and creating tax benefits around that, and created incentives that incentivized the 1% to really do that with their employee sets across a wide range of industries, that is the greatest way to drive wealth distribution back into society, which is the greatest way to spur the commerce of society as a whole. And so I feel like that's just a not well thought through aspect of fiscal policy within the United States right now.
I think you should head that up. I had never heard that idea before. It makes complete sense to me. Complete sense.
Yeah, every time I tell someone, they tell me I should run for politics. I'm like, that's probably not.
Well, all you have to do is be the think tank portion for the person.
Yeah, I'm happy to join. I'm ready to be recruited.
Well, Karl, man, I've enjoyed your wisdom and your experience. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and hanging out with us. And I know the listeners and the viewers are going to get a ton from it. Where can they find out more about you and maybe we've been working with N13?
Yeah, I mean, probably the easiest way to find me is through LinkedIn. Just Karl Alomar through LinkedIn. My Twitter is Alomar NYC from my old days living in New York. But N13 is the name of the company. N13.co is our website. Come take a look at our portfolio. Come take a look at what I'm doing. Let us know if you're building the next, exciting businesses out there. We'd love to talk, and we'd love to figure out if there's ways we can be involved, and excited to meet, more of the great entrepreneurs that are out there that are building the future.
Sounds amazing. Karl, thank you again, my friend.
Nice. Appreciate it.
See you.
I hope you liked that video. And if you did, make sure you check out this next video right here. Does it make sense to build the organization to always be ready to be sold? Or does it make sense to actually build it, as you're going to own it and operate it forever?
I believe in, building a business to be sold. Like if you do that, it's easier to get financing if you need financing, because then it's all explainable, right? Just like you're going to explain it to, a